what are the foundations of freedom and democracy and prosperity? Where are they rotten? Let us rebuild those so that today's leaders can build the house on those foundations without risking falling it over. There's a big difference. It's not about bringing back a past set of leaders or economic or social policies. It's about restoring the foundations so people can put the house of their version of freedom and prosperity on it. Because we are not building a house of freedom and prosperity at the moment.
Those principles that you're talking about, they're more stimulating than people realise. I mean, we're talking about centuries of philosophical thought here. Yeah. I want to cut to Bishop Barron now because he was one of the highlights for me. Let's just listen to...
He was a big surprise for a lot of people.
Was he really? Yeah, well, I've got to confess...
I hadn't heard of him.
Well, I hadn't heard of him either. And what a great bloke. So, I mean, I highly recommend viewers go and watch Bishop Barron's entire speech. I can only get a grab from the start because he really does develop his argument. And so, you know, if I got a grab from anywhere past halfway through, you wouldn't understand what he was talking about. But he is very lucid, very articulate. Here's a grab from the start where he talks about one of his heroes, or two of his heroes, Martin Luther King and Bob Dylan.
I felt right at home when I came in. There's Martin Luther King back there, one of my great heroes. But then someone pointed out to me another great hero of mine over here, Bob Dylan. Anyone that's followed my work knows that I've been relying on him for a long time. And that's a marvelous quote, and it's reminiscent of one of his songs where he says, "Freedom just around the corner from you, but with truth so far off, what good would it do?" That sums up my talk on freedom and responsibility. I think, too, of another Bob Dylan line, you don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. There's a lot of bad winds blowing around in our culture, and we shouldn't be listening to the strange weathermen who are trying to interpret it for us. We know what some of these winds are doing, and we just heard it beautifully presented to our kids, what's happening to our culture. And a lot of it does indeed hinge upon the resolution of this problem of freedom, which is so important to us in the West. I know, it's the supreme value in many ways. But freedom has to be joined to truth, to responsibility.
So it's a really important concept to understand, that freedom means you've got to be free of the negatives. You can't be free if you're living in a police state. You can't be free if you don't, you're not afraid of the police knocking you up in the middle of the night and dragging you off to prison, or the government's going to take your property, or you're addicted, or alienated, or being eaten up by loneliness. So those things will destroy freedom. But then when you have got freedom, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to build a responsible life? You're going to look for satisfaction? You're going to do what you should do? Or you're going to say, I'll be an island and do it my own way. No rules for me. I will just do what I like. That immediately turns freedom into the enemy of freedom.
Yeah, it's a
because
prison.
License, I will do what I like, inevitably means you start to crimp other people's freedoms.
The analogy that he used throughout his speech, as you probably recall, was golf.
Golf.
And so he says, the more you learn about golf, the more you learn about the laws of golf and the rules of golf, ironically or paradoxically, the freer you become. It's a great analogy, isn't it?
Yeah, he's saying, and it's right of any sport, really. You really understand the rules and the laws which have been built up over a very long period of time and reflect the wisdom of the ages, whether it's golf, whether it's rugby, whatever. The game will be much more enjoyable if you know what they are, you know what the rules are, and then you can go for it and enjoy it and know that you're not impacting on other people's ability to enjoy it as well.